My name is Sara Oehler and I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager for Soft Flex Company. I'm going to show you how to make a simple necklace just using a few beads in the center and then letting the colored Soft Flex be a part of the design rather than just a stringing supply. So I've already cut a piece of wire to start working, and what I did was I clipped a bead stopper on it. The bead stoppers are basically like big springs that just slip open. And you can find those in many different colors, colored tips. So I've got my bead stopper set. I'm going to go ahead and string one crimp tube. I'm using 2 by 2 millimeter crimp tubes today. And they're the Soft Flex crimp tubes, so they're very strong, sturdy. I'm going to string my beads. I just have a few specialty beads picked out here. This is a great design for using up if you just have like a couple special beads or you have a couple leftover beads that you just can't really use in any other design. This is a great way to use those. So I'm stringing all of my beads down to the center of the wire, and then I'm going to string one more crimp tube onto the center. In this design, we're actually going to use the Magical Crimpers. The nice thing about the Magical Crimpers is it takes out having to use a crimp cover. And the reason being is it's going to take this little crimp tube and make it round, but also crimp it at the same time. These crimping pliers have two identical half domes on either side of the plier. The crimp tube actually fits in the center of the pliers just perfectly. These only work with a 2 by 2 millimeter crimp tube. According to the inventor of the Magical Crimpers, if you're using the universal yellow handled pair, it should work with 014, 019, or 024. However, you do have to usually have 2 strands running through the crimp for it to really be secure. So since I'm doing a 1-strand design here, what I do is I just cut off a little extra wire and string it through my crimp tube. And then I can go ahead and use those Magical Crimpers on this design, and I'll just trim off the excess wire. So I have everything all set up here. I'm going to go ahead and center that crimp tube inside these pliers and pull next to my bead. And what happens when I do my first pass with the pliers is it pinches 4 little corners, which make it look sort of like a little ravioli. Then I'm going to put that crimp into the crimping pliers the opposite direction and pinch those 4 corners in. And then I like to go around it several times. The inventor suggests at least 6 times. You just kind of keep turning and compressing. And what that does is it just makes sure that the 2 edges of that crimp are completely molded down into the nylon coating of the wire. And now all I need to do on this side is cut off my extra wire. So I slide in my flush cutter as close as possible between the 2 wires and snip. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And as close as possible and snip, and then no one will ever know that there was a second wire running through there. But that makes it a lot easier and a lot more secure. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'll get a little bit of a bigger piece of wire just to make it easier on myself. I could totally use these little trimmed pieces here, but since I'm doing a video, I think I better go the safe route here. I'm going to string my wire inside and pull it sort of centered so I've got a little bit of wire on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and grab the crimp inside of the pliers and then pull down so that it's next to my bead, and then I'll crimp. And I'm going to go around it on all sides. making sure it's all nice and tight. And when I'm done with that, I can go ahead and snip, snip. On both ends. And we've got the center of our necklace. Now all we need to do is attach the clasp on the back end, and that's going to be real quick and easy. I am just going to string a crimp tube, again the 2x2s. I'll go through half of my clasp and back into the crimp tube again. And pull it down so it's fairly tight. Again, I want this to be able to move around. And I'm going to go ahead and use those same pliers. You can even use them to connect your clasps. And in fact, it's a very strong connection. You have to worry about it breaking. Once I'm done there, all I have to do is clip off that extra wire. And we'll do it on one more side and we'll be done with our necklace. So in order to make sure that I have the same length on both sides, I like to pull from the middle. So I'll find the middle and then I'll pull up, and then I can kind of keep track of where that crimp needs to go, and I can just sort of let go of this side here. I'm going to string into my crimp tube, or into my clasp, and then back into my crimp tube. And pull that down to the right place. I like to check both sides and make sure that they look similar, and they do. And then I can go ahead and crimp. So this is a real quick and easy way to make a real simple design, but something that can look really elegant, especially if you're using our 24 karat gold or sterling silver or champagne colors. You can make something that just looks really amazing with a small budget, because you don't need a lot of beads. And it feels really nice because the wire is actually hypoallergenic because it's nylon coated, and it feels nice on your skin. It's smooth and soft and very comfortable to wear. And again, you can use, whatever beads you have around your house. Maybe you have a really neat glass pendant and you haven't been sure how to use it. Just throw a couple beads on either side of it, crimp it in the center of the wire, and let the wire just be a part of the design, by using a color that makes sense for that particular design. Just to give you a quick comparison, this is the bracelet that I did earlier using a 2x2 millimeter crimp and a 3 millimeter crimp cover, and this is the necklace done with the 2x2 millimeter crimp using a Magical Crimper. So there are times where I still use crimp covers. In fact, I really like them in a design like this on a bracelet, where I think it looks nice to have a bigger bead at the end there. But there are plenty of times where I also just like to use the Magical Crimpers and think that they do a really nice job as well. So both knowing how to do both is very useful.